few minutes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I thought mine was broken too.
Do you want to just wait for her for a few minutes?
Yeah,
Okay, I look like a dork, but is this working?
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome. Sick. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, no
We're good.
problem.
All right. So now that I successfully screwed around for 5 minutes, I'll copy and paste the questions into the chat. All right. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Cool beans. Okay, so this is looking at the psychological evaluation unit. This is the one where they have the intern who's kind of a problem child and like showing up late, not doing his stuff. So did the group go through the 2 stages of the normative model, differentiation and integration?
Differentiation, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, not successfully, but parties express their differences, staking out positions and criticizing others on their positions. And you could see like Lou tried to, I think his name was Lou. Yeah, Lou tried to come in with his issue and then they kind of shot him down. Like some people brought up other issues, I guess. They didn't, in the beginning, didn't they say that Jerry, like nobody wanted to interrupt him or challenge him?
Mm-hmm.
But they did kind of bring up their own issues or their own positions, I guess. Tried to.
Definitely. I think there was some confusion, not necessarily on the problem, but in the solution that needed to be reached. So like some of the members wanted to come up with like a standard for this guy in terms of like how many absences per month or whatever was like acceptable. But you know, then somebody said like, shouldn't that apply to the whole department? Some of them were saying like, let's just talk to the guy and see like if just talking to him fixes it, and then we evaluate in a couple months. So I think there was just some disagreement on what the expectations were, so they couldn't really figure out a way to implement a solution.
They were also having like other problems, it seems like, with him. So at first, I think some of them were trying to just correct his behavior, like overall. And then Jerry was like, okay, let's just talk about time. That's another issue. But I feel like you'd want to address, I mean, if there's that many problems with somebody, you know, working somewhere, I feel like you want to address all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jerry kept saying like, that's another issue, that's another issue.
Yeah, but he didn't really like come up with any solutions to those issues.
Yeah, at the end of it, I was like, what? Okay, so you're just going to talk to him about your expectations, but, you know, what are your expectations?
What are the expectations?
Yeah.
I find it kind of unusual that they didn't have a standard to begin with for absences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if he's not fulfilling your expectations, that's one thing if they're known. But if the dude's just not sure of what's expected of him, then I could totally understand why he would fall short.
Yeah. Well, they did mention that, like, nobody else that was there was kind of being late like him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think, like, the status quo was, like, the baseline.
Yeah. And how do we feel about their integration? So I don't feel like they really reached a solution.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
everybody's issues were addressed.
I think they spent so long figuring out what the problem was that everything just got confused when they tried to come up with a solution.
Yeah. I'm like rereading the end of it because I'm trying to understand like what even was decided.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing too.
They just said, okay, we'll talk to him and we have a set of expectations and then we'll reassess based on that. But it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you didn't really
But
settle on any.
what are the expectations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, earlier he was saying like, how many hours are you late? Like, I think maybe they just wanted to like look at the exact numbers of like what was happening. And because I guess they were kind of talking in general terms this whole conversation. So maybe they weren't really fully prepared to have this discussion, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
but guess they got their conclusion.
Okay. Next question is, did this group follow the principles for promoting collaboration discussed in Chapter 8?
Honestly, I don't think they did because they didn't come to a solution. Instead of like, talking it out and like saying, oh, hey, let me try to do this instead. Or I'll let you try this. There's like options out there, but they really didn't. Like, use the principle of like collaborating.
Yeah.
Is collaboration kind of the same thing as integration?
I think they go
think
hand
they're
in hand. Like, I
similar.
think
Or you
in
need
order to
collaboration to get?
yeah, you need to like understand what the other person's saying, and then have like address the legitimacy of each other's issues and positions. And I feel like they kind of didn't really do that because they weren't like settling on one thing. They were kind of going back and forth. And, like Jerry was not helping because this girl, Laura, was like, I don't find it acceptable. And he was like, on the other hand, if it's 11:15 and you don't have any patients, but maybe that's another thing of like unclear expectations because it's like when is the last time that you can leave, but he wasn't helping by saying, well, like, devil's advocate, like that wasn't collaborative. Okay.
Yeah. I think rather than just saying like, oh, that's a separate issue, it could have been like, okay, let's write this down and maybe discuss it at the end. Because just saying like, this isn't related to what we're talking about isn't necessarily like helpful. It's not going to encourage people to continue speaking their minds. Whereas if he like acknowledged that, yeah, that is an issue, but we're just not going to deal with it right now, people might feel more comfortable speaking up and starting to act collaboratively.
Yeah, you're saying rather than Jerry saying that's not what this is about or whatever he said in that thing.
Yeah, addressing that it is valid,
Mhm.
but not super on topic.
Yeah,
because I feel like he's
like 4 times.
Yeah.
So.
All right. How might the group have done things differently if they had followed the conflict management procedure outlined earlier?
Let me.
Yeah, I gotta find that.
Look back at that conflict management procedure.
Yeah, since it said earlier, I assume it was at the beginning of chapter 8, but
it might be talking about on
7.
chapter 1. There's a model of conflict. So it's
I think it's 8.3 is what it's talking about.
Oh, okay. I
It
just,
says a
like, searched
procedure for managing
Oh,
conflicts.
yeah.
It says 1, issue identification,
Mhm.
2, vision, 3, solution generation, and 4, solution evaluation and selection.
So it's not earlier, it's after.
Yeah.
What the heck? Okay. So issue identification, they address the issues, even though they weren't all like, yeah, but they address them. Um,
Yeah, I think the issues were addressed. Some of them just got ignored, but
Yeah.
I guess they brought them up. They didn't all get like
Yeah.
solved, but
there was definitely no like solution evaluation and selection. Like at
Definitely
the end,
not.
it was kind of just like, okay, well, I guess we'll just talk to him and see what happens.
I also feel like one of the things they really did not succeed with was most textbooks talk about how when you're talking about solution generation, you should brainstorm without judgment, like
Mhm.
just kind of throw solutions out there, throw them at the wall and kind of don't worry about whether they stick or not. And then afterwards, once everybody's kind of out of ideas, then you go back and evaluate them. Whereas solutions were being thrown out, but then people were shutting them down. And that can be really counterproductive to idea flow.
Yeah.
yeah, and if they followed implementation, I mean, obviously they would have a solution that would work and that everybody understood.
Right. Because they said they
But they
wanted
didn't.
to assess the intern's like response to their grievances in like 2 months, but they didn't really set any standards for that evaluation.
Yeah, they didn't.
Do they mean
Yeah.
like if they talk to him now and then just to tell them that they're concerned about it, and then they would talk to him like again in 2 months if the same thing kept happening?
I
was
think
kind of-
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
They
Okay.
just do the same exact thing in 2 months again, probably.
So they're letting him slack off. Okay, so
So it's like kind of like in the procedures, they didn't follow like a vision. So they
yeah,
didn't come to a solution of their conflict. They just slide it off like, oh, we'll deal with it later in 2 months.
yeah, because they could have been focusing on like the result of his actions changing, and be like, okay, well, if he is actually like a good intern, that means our department will like do better and be seen better by like the heads of the company that we're gonna check on them,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have
Right.
benefited them if he was like performing better and like living up to his responsibilities.
Yeah.
But
I
they
feel
didn't
like
have that common goal.
I just feel like they didn't really set themselves up to successfully evaluate the effectiveness of their solution, which was just talking to the guy. Because like if they come back in 2 months and he's made slight behavior changes, then is that enough to prove that their solution was successful? Like I just think they could have created stronger criteria so that the intern could be clearer and so that they can evaluate whether or not just talking to him was enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You ready for the last one?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Would problem purpose expansion be useful for this group? Why or why not? So I'm gonna find that.
Page 241.
Thanks.
Cool.
The effectiveness of any conflict management strategy depends on how parties formulate the problems they face.
Um,
Well,
so go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it would be useful. It's all about selecting the best procedure to be used by the team.
Yeah, and it would have helped them to like focus on an issue to resolve. Like if they actually went through and resolved at least one issue,
Mm-hmm.
rather than bringing up all these things that they're like, okay, we'll talk about it in a general sense.
Yeah, it's, I
Yeah.
see step one is just stating the problem. And the second step is expands the problem statement by reformulating it, allowing for a second round of brainstorming that generates a set of different solutions. So they just reformulate it to get more solutions, which I guess could really only benefit. I mean, I couldn't see that hindering anything really, unless it's like a math problem where you just need to do it one way. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you reformulate, I mean, if you brainstorm and generate a different set of solutions, I mean, you might always come up with something better than what you originally thought of, or something that somebody might agree on when they didn't agree on the previous idea or something.
Definitely. Yeah, I think they went into it with a specific issue in mind, which was the attendance, but it kind of expanded to behavior in general because then they started talking about, leaving early and just general like participation. And I think maybe if they had stayed focused on attendance and come up with a set of standards or a solution for that, it could have like then moved on to these behavioral issues
Mm-hmm.
and coming up with like like a specific solution for each problem as opposed to just like letting them all get really muddy and coming up with a really general solution, which is just
Yeah.
talk to the dude.
Yeah, I think we solved it for them, honestly.
A little bit better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well,
Do you want to make a note of the time?
yeah, we're good. So I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay, perfect.